The Art of Learning, An Inner Journey to Optimal Performance by Josh Waitzkin. Picture this. December 5, 2004. Chuan Stadium in Taipei, Taiwan. The air crackles with tension, alive with chants in a language that sounds like organized chaos to your ears. You're flat on your back, your body a symphony of agony. Your shoulder? It feels like someone's trying to steal it from your body. The bell rings. 40 seconds on the clock. Your teammates hover over you, worry carved into their faces like ancient stone. From somewhere in the stands, your dad's voice cuts through the mayhem. "Come on, Josh! Gotta get up!" Across the ring stands your opponent. They call him Buffalo, which tells you everything you need to know. He's bigger, stronger, and currently pounding his chest, like he's auditioning for King Kong. He's the hometown hero, a national champion who's been preparing for this moment since before you knew Taiwan existed. You're just the American who had the audacity to show up. The final bell rings. You've got to move. You've got to drag yourself to the center of that ring. Just touch wrists with him one more time. That's all you need. Just one more chance. You reach down into some hidden reservoir you didn't know your body kept in stock. Your wrists touch. The bell rings for the final round of the Tai Chi Chuan Push Hands World Championship, and he hits you like a freight train having a bad day. So here's the question. How does someone end up here? Better yet, how does someone win from here? And here's the really weird part. Josh Waitzkin wasn't supposed to be in this ring at all. A few years before this moment, the world knew him as someone completely different. He was the thoughtful, gentle-faced chess prodigy, the kid whose life inspired the book and movie, Searching for Bobby Fischer. He was America's golden boy of chess, a genius who battled with his mind, not his body. So what's he doing in a martial arts ring with a shoulder that's basically screaming for mercy, fighting for a world title in one of the most physically demanding arts on the planet? That question? That's the secret this book unlocks. And here's the thing. It has nothing to do with chess or martial arts specifically. It has everything to do with excellence itself. The Art of Learning isn't just Josh's story. It's a blueprint. It reveals the principles that allowed one person to climb to the absolute summit of two wildly different mountains. And here's what I can promise you. By the time we're done here, you'll understand this blueprint. You'll see that becoming great at anything, whether it's calculus, cello, soccer, or sales, isn't some mystical secret. It's a process. It's an art, and it's an art you can learn. Our story doesn't start in a stadium in Taiwan. It starts in a gritty, wonderfully chaotic corner of New York City, Washington Square Park. 6-year-old Josh Waitzkin is walking with his mom when he spots them, the chess hustlers. These aren't grandmasters in hushed tournament halls. They're brilliant, beautifully broken men playing speed chess for cash on stone tables. Alcoholics, homeless geniuses, gamblers, all of them burning with an almost scary passion for the game. To young Josh, the pieces aren't just carved wood. They're creatures in some mysterious forest, pulsing with dangerous, magical energy. He's completely hooked. Something about the game just clicks in his brain like a key turning in a lock. A few days later, he challenges one of the old-timers. He barely knows the rules, but as he moves the pieces, it feels like he's remembering something from a dream. He plays so well that the old man actually accuses his mother of running a con on him. From that moment on, the park becomes his classroom. This is our first critical lesson. Josh's education doesn't start with memorizing rules and drowning in theory. It starts with love. Pure, electric love for the game. He loves the thrill of mental combat, the psychological grenades lobbing back and forth across the board. He's a student of the streets, learning to be tough, scrappy, and impossible to rattle. Eventually, a famous chess teacher named Bruce Pandolfini discovers him and offers lessons. But Bruce is sharp. He knows he can't just download information into this wild, creative kid's brain like he's installing software. A lot of teachers try to cookie-cutter their students, but Bruce understands that approach is basically educational murder. He has to feed Josh's natural love for chess, not smother it under a pile of technical jargon. So what does he do? This brings us to one of the foundational ideas in the art of learning: depth over breadth. Instead of starting with complex opening strategies, which is where most beginners start, Bruce begins Josh with an almost empty board. King and pawn versus king. Just 3 lonely pieces. They spend hundreds of hours on these bare-bones endgames, exploring the soul of each piece. Josh learns about empty space, timing, and pressure in a clean, uncluttered environment. He's learning the fundamental principles from the ground up. Meanwhile, his rivals are busy memorizing opening traps. This is like stealing the answer key instead of learning the math. Sure, you might ace one test, but you haven't learned anything about the underlying principles. For these kids, chess becomes about one thing only: results. Winning, period. This reveals a massive psychological divide in how people approach learning. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck calls it the difference between an entity theory of intelligence and an incremental theory. An entity theorist believes their ability is basically set in stone. They say things like, "I'm naturally smart at this," or "I'm just not a math person." When they succeed, they credit their innate talent. When they fail, they think they're fundamentally deficient. These are the kids who hit a hard problem and immediately deflate. Their confidence is as fragile as glass. An incremental theorist, or a learning theorist, believes ability is built brick by brick. They say things like, "I got it because I put in the work," or "I need to try a different approach." For them, a challenge isn't a threat. It's an invitation. They have what's called a mastery-oriented response. They bounce back. The kids memorizing openings are being trained as entity theorists. They're linking their entire identity to winning. So when they lose, total identity crisis. Josh, learning from the endgame up, is being trained as an incrementalist. He's focused on the process, on understanding, on the journey, rather than just the destination. This is why, in his first national championship at age 8, he finds himself in the final round against a brilliant kid named David Arnett. Josh makes an early mistake and walks straight into a trap. He's getting demolished. He feels the sweat, the goosebumps, the predatory stares of his competitors. Everything's falling apart. And he loses. He's absolutely crushed. Is he a loser? Has he disappointed everyone? These are heavy questions for an 8-year-old brain to process. But his family knows exactly what to do. They don't dissect the game. They don't give him the "it's okay" speech. They go fishing. The ocean is Josh's reset button. It's his escape from the pressure cooker, a reminder that he's more than a chess rating. He rediscovers himself as a kid, not as a chess player. This teaches him another vital lesson. The road to success is never a straight line. It needs rest stops, reflection, and recovery. In the long game, a crushing loss can teach you more than an easy victory. The people who can extract wisdom from every experience, good or bad, are the ones who make it to the finish line. He returns to chess with something new burning inside him. He's tasted defeat, and instead of fear, he feels determination. He's no longer just a talented kid having fun. He's on a mission. This leads him to his next great rival, a terrifyingly intense kid named Jeff Sarwer, who studies chess 12 hours a day and literally whispers, "Kill, kill, kill," under his breath during games. Yeah, that kid. Their showdown in the final round of the next national championship is absolute warfare. Josh is down a pawn. His position looks hopeless. He goes to the bathroom and cries. But then he splashes water on his face, pulls himself together, and walks back to that board. He's trapped in a dark jungle, but then he spots a sliver of light. He finds a sequence of moves that are way beyond his years and manages to draw the game, winning the national title on tiebreaks. He's learned perhaps the most crucial lesson for any competitor: how to thrive when everything's falling apart. His style evolves into deliberately making games complex, diving into chaos, confident he can navigate it better than his opponents. He's not fighting internal demons. His style on the board becomes a direct expression of who he is. This is a state of being that's fundamental to learning. But as we get older, it becomes harder and harder to hold on to. As Josh enters his teens, life gets complicated fast. In 1993, Searching for Bobby Fischer hits theaters, and suddenly he's famous. He can't show up at a tournament without getting mobbed by fans and reporters. Instead of losing himself in the game, he catches himself thinking about how he looks while he's thinking. The fame, which sounds like a teenager's dream, becomes a professional nightmare. He starts to dread chess. At the same time, his new coach, a famous Russian grandmaster, pushes him to completely change his style. Josh is a creative, aggressive player, but his coach wants him to play like former world champion Anatoly Karpov, a patient, strategic player who slowly squeezes opponents like an anaconda. Josh tries to follow the advice, constantly asking himself, what would Karpov do here? But Karpov had ice in his veins, and Josh's blood runs hot. Chess starts to feel foreign. He's losing his natural voice. Imagine a balance beam. As a child, you can run and flip on it without a second thought. The beam feels wide and safe. If you fall, you just climb back on. But as you get older, you become aware of the stakes. The beam narrows. Suddenly, it's a tightrope stretched over a pit of fire. What was once playful becomes a source of paralyzing anxiety. Josh is teetering on that tightrope. He's lost his center of gravity. His mom, Bonnie, trains horses. She explains that there are two ways to break a wild stallion. One way is, quote, shock and awe. You tie it up, terrify it, drive it to exhaustion until it submits. Out of pure fear, you break its spirit. The other way is the way of horse whisperers. You gentle the horse. You groom it, speak its language, approach it with respect. You don't fight against it, you work with it. You align your goals so the horse wants to do what you want it to do. You guide without breaking that gorgeous, vibrant spirit. Josh's old coach, Bruce, was a horse whisperer. His new coach is trying to break him like a stallion. This approach, forcing a student into a mold that violates their natural disposition, is incredibly destructive. Lost and feeling alienated from the art he once loved, Josh stumbles upon a little book that changes everything, the Tao Te Ching. He's drawn to its wisdom about inner peace and clearing away obstructions to natural insight. This leads him, in 1998, to walk into a Tai Chi studio in downtown Manhattan. And here, his second art is born. In the Tai Chi studio, he's a beginner again. No cameras, no fans, no expectations. It's incredibly liberating. He's learning an art where the goal isn't winning. It's just being. His teacher, Grandmaster William C.C. Chen, is basically a physical Yoda. He can look at Josh from across the room, spot a tiny knot of tension in his shoulder, mirror his posture, make a half-inch adjustment, and suddenly, Josh feels energy flowing through his hand like warm water. After months of learning the slow, meditative movements, Master Chen invites him to join the push hands class, the martial side of the art. This is where Tai Chi's core philosophy gets tested. To defeat 1,000 pounds with 4 ounces. It's about blending with an opponent's energy, not crashing into it head-on. But there's a problem. Our natural instinct when someone pushes us is to tense up and push back. To learn Tai Chi, you have to unlearn this instinct. You have to let yourself get pushed around. A big, strong guy who walks into a martial arts studio wants to immediately prove he's a big, strong guy. He resists, he pushes back. The problem? He's not learning anything. To grow, he needs to surrender his current mindset. He needs to lose to win. Josh calls this principle investment in loss. It means giving yourself completely to the learning process, even if it means looking ridiculous. For Josh, this is perfect. He's totally open to being tossed around like a rag doll. It's humility boot camp. His training partner is a guy named Evan, a 200-pound powerhouse and black belt in 2 other martial arts who enjoys putting people on the floor. For months, Evan hammers him, plastering him against the wall 50 times a night. It's brutal. Josh limps home every night, bruised and beaten. But something interesting happens. As he gets used to the impact, he stops fearing it. As he learns to relax under pressure, Evan seems to move in slow motion. He begins to sense attacks before they fully develop. He's learning to read Evan's intention before it becomes action. One day, everything flips. Evan charges at him like an angry bull, and Josh instinctively sidesteps and throws him to the floor. It feels effortless. After a few minutes of this, Evan makes an excuse and never trains with Josh again. Evan isn't willing to invest in loss himself. He could have used Josh's improvement as fuel for his own growth, but instead, he quits. This brings us to another core principle: making smaller circles. Think of the student with writer's block from Robert Pirsig's Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. She can't write a 500-word essay about her town. The teacher changes the assignment. Write about the upper left-hand brick of the opera house across the street. Suddenly, creativity pours out of her. The principle is depth over breadth. Dive into the tiniest detail to understand the whole picture. Instead of learning 100 flashy, surface-level techniques, Josh focuses on perfecting one simple movement, like pushing his hand 6 inches through the air, for hours. He's feeling the subtlest ripples of tension and releasing them, one by one. Once he masters the feeling of a perfectly executed small movement, he can translate that feeling to the entire art form. He's touching the essence of technique. Then he incrementally condenses the external movement while keeping the internal essence alive. Over time, the movement gets smaller and smaller, but its power increases. A big, telegraphed punch becomes a 1-inch punch with knockout power. He's making smaller circles. As he goes deeper, he realizes something fascinating. The two arts he's studying, chess and Tai Chi, aren't so different after all. They're connected by essential common ground. He starts winning chess games without consciously thinking about chess. He's feeling flow, filling space, riding waves, just like in martial arts. In martial arts competitions, time slows down, allowing him to methodically dismantle his opponent's structure, just like taking apart a chess position. What he's truly great at isn't chess or Tai Chi. What he's mastered is the art of learning itself. This leads to the question of peak performance. How do we get in the zone? And more importantly, how do we stay there when it matters most? Josh describes what sports psychologists call the soft zone. Imagine you're deeply focused. If you're tense, straining to fight off every distraction, you're in a hard zone. You're like a dry twig, ready to snap under pressure. The alternative is to be quietly, intensely focused, relaxed on the outside, but with all your mental engines firing inside. You flow with whatever comes, integrating every ripple of life into your creative moment. This is the soft zone. You're like a flexible blade of grass that can survive a hurricane. He learns this lesson as a young chess player when catchy songs get stuck in his head during tournaments. At first, he tries to block them out, which only makes them louder, like telling yourself not to think about pink elephants. Then he has a breakthrough. He starts thinking to the beat of the music. His chess calculations move to the rhythm of the song, and he plays inspired chess. He's learned to flow with the distraction. But the next level? Using the distraction, turning adversity into advantage. In 2001, he's in the finals of a martial arts tournament, facing a 230-pound giant. This guy is mean, accomplished, and clearly wants to dismantle Josh piece by piece. In the middle of the match, the man tears into Josh's shoulder. He hears a crack. His hand goes icy hot. It's broken. The pain jolts him into a deeper focus than he's ever experienced. Time slows to a near stop. He fights the rest of the match with one arm, his mind in a state of crystalline awareness. And he wins. Just like the earthquake in India that sparked a chess breakthrough, the broken hand becomes fuel for peak performance. The doctor tells him there's zero chance he can compete in the national championships 7 weeks later, but Josh is resolute. He's back in training the day after getting his cast. He's forced to train one-handed. This disadvantage becomes an incredible learning opportunity. He has to develop his weaker side, cultivating skills he never would have explored otherwise. He discovers new principles of leverage and control. His weakness blossoms into a weapon. 7 weeks later, he wins the nationals. The greatest competitors don't see injuries as setbacks. They see them as opportunities to reinvent themselves, to sharpen other parts of their game. They learn to use adversity as a tool. All of this builds to a crescendo, how to trigger peak state at will. Josh explains that you can't just stumble upon a magic trigger, like a song that automatically puts you in the zone. You have to deliberately create it. The method is to work backward. First, identify an activity where you feel completely present and at peace. For one businessman Josh coached, it was playing catch with his son. Then, create a consistent routine you perform every single time before that activity. For this man, it was a light snack, 15 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of stretching, and listening to a Bob Dylan song. After doing this consistently for a month, a physiological connection forms between the routine and the state of mind. He can then use that routine before a high-stakes business meeting and feel the same calm focus he felt playing catch with his son. The final step is to condense the routine. Gradually, you shorten it. The 15 minutes of meditation becomes 5. The 10-minute song becomes 30 seconds. Eventually, just taking a single deep breath or hearing the first note of the song can trigger the entire state. You've created an instant, portable trigger for the zone. For Josh, his trigger becomes the slow, meditative movements of the Tai Chi form. He condenses it down to a single breath, a single internal shift that can instantly click him into peak state. Which brings us back to Taiwan, 2004. He spent 2 years preparing for this moment, training with his best friend Dan, who's built just like the Taiwanese champion, Buffalo. They've gone to war every night in the training room, breaking down every technique, every psychological tell, building a complete anti-Buffalo game plan. The finals are absolutely brutal. In the first event, Fixed Step, a tight, explosive game, Josh gets inside Buffalo's head and wins the first world title. The stadium falls silent, like someone hit the mute button. But the second event, Moving Step, is Buffalo's legacy. It's wild, physical chaos. In the first round, Josh's shoulder gets badly injured by an illegal throw. The pain is blinding. He's flat on his back, fighting to breathe, his teammates looking on in horror. He gets up. The second round is pure mayhem, spinning, cranking, bodies flying through space. With 1 second left, Josh drives Buffalo out of the ring with a throw so violent he dislocates his own shoulder again, smashing his head into the ground. The round ends in a tie. The final round, he's running on fumes, his tank completely empty. Buffalo's coach, seeing Josh is injured, tells his fighter to stall, to just run out the clock. But Josh finds one last opening, one last shred of will, and throws Buffalo to the mat, tying the match at the very last second. Then chaos erupts. The judges had let the clock run long in the second round. A protest is filed. After an agonizing delay, the officials rule it a shared championship. In a flash, it's over. He's survived. He's won a world championship and shared another, on foreign soil, against a legend, with essentially one arm. He hasn't just learned to perform. He's learned to transform pain into focus, chaos into clarity, and adversity into victory. He's mastered the art of learning. When you finish this book, what stays with you isn't a list of tips and tricks. It's a feeling. It's the profound realization that the walls we build between different skills, and even between different parts of ourselves, are illusions. The same principles that forge a great chess player are the same ones that create a great martial artist, musician, or scientist. The most powerful idea, for me, is this concept of investment in loss. In a world obsessed with immediate results, with looking good, with never failing, Waitzkin reminds us that real growth happens when we're willing to be vulnerable. It happens when we step into the ring with our own Evan, the challenge we know will rough us up, and say, "Teach me." It's the courage to be a beginner, again and again, even when we're already good at something. It's understanding that every loss, every mistake, isn't a stain on our record, but a lesson lighting our path forward. The second key takeaway is the shift from a goal-oriented mindset to a process-oriented one. So many of us are like those young chess players memorizing openings. We want the shortcut, the quick win, the life hack. But Waitzkin's journey shows that lasting excellence comes from falling in love with the process itself. It comes from finding joy not just in the trophy, but in the practice, the struggle, the slow, incremental climb. When you focus on the process, results take care of themselves. More than that, you build a foundation that can weather any storm, because your self-worth isn't tied to a single outcome. So how can you apply this to your own life, starting today? First, find your end game. Whatever you're trying to learn, a new language, an instrument, a skill for your career, start with the simplest, most fundamental component. Like Josh with his king and pawn endings, ignore the fancy stuff for now. Go deep on one small thing, master it, feel what excellence feels like on a micro level. That feeling will become your compass as you expand your skills. Second, embrace a loss. This week, deliberately seek out a challenge you know you're not ready for. Play a sport against someone better than you. Try a problem that's beyond your current level. Or speak in a new language with a native speaker, even though you know you'll stumble. Don't do it to win. Do it to learn. Pay attention to the feeling of being pushed, of making mistakes. Welcome it. That discomfort is the exact feeling of growth happening. The Art of Learning is more than a book about chess or martial arts. It's a guide to living a richer, more engaged life. It teaches us that the path to mastery isn't about accumulating knowledge like collecting stamps. It's about deepening our awareness of ourselves, of our craft, and of the world around us. It's about learning to be present, to be resilient, and to find hidden harmony in the chaos of struggle. That was a summary of The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. We've covered the big ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a photograph of a beautiful landscape. It can show you the scenery, but it can't make you feel the wind on your face or the sun on your skin. The real magic of this book lives in the stories, in the quiet moments of reflection that bring these principles to life. This overview is your map, but if anything we discussed sparked something in you, I encourage you to take the journey yourself. Reading the full book is an experience that might just change how you approach every challenge for the rest of your life. The link is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you something to think about, please show some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.